Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience as we wait for the last few people to dial in. I think we'll have a few more dialing in the next couple of minutes, but I will get us kicked off with our session today. So hello again on behalf of YouNoodle, and welcome to our Ask Me Anything discussion with our University Entrepreneurship Program experts. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Eliza, and I am responsible for helping organizations understand the value that YouNoodle can bring to their organizations. Today, I will be moderating our AMA session, but before we begin, I will go over just a few reminders. So if you haven't already, please feel free to introduce yourself via the chat box. If you are not speaking, kindly keep your mic muted. And when you have any questions for the panelists, it would be best to put it in the chat box, and this will just give us the best chance of making sure everyone's questions are addressed. And lastly, we always get asked, and yes, the session will be recorded and shared with all of you afterwards. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone again for taking the time to join us today. For those of you who have not participated in our online discussions in the past, welcome. The format of this session will be fairly informal, as we want to maximize time for group discussion. But as I mentioned, we want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to ask questions to our panels. So do make sure you include those in the chat box. And for those of you who have attended our previous online sessions, welcome back. Always great to see familiar faces. And I know I've had conversations with most of you, a lot of you recently, around the challenges that the pandemic has brought to your organizations and initiatives this year, which has kind of been a catalyst for us to put on this Ask Me Anything session today. So we are all here today because the reality of running a university and a campus has really changed a lot over the last few months, as I'm sure you all know. And we are all here trying to figure out how to make our competitions and programs successful in this new school term despite these challenges. So, we're asking our question, a lot of questions are unanswered still. How is this going to impact programs? What must be considered as we enter into the new school term? What are the challenges that others in similar positions are facing? So as things continue to evolve, it's really hard to have an answer. No one really does have the answer. So for that reason, we have a format like this that provides a forum to discuss these ideas and challenges and hopefully leave you with a sense of, what you can do from here. So without further ado, I will begin to introduce our panelists with a bit of a bio on each of them. As I go through them as well, feel free to start entering your questions in the chat box. So I will kick us off with Marie Bruno. Thanks for joining us today, Marie. So Marie is with the Arkansas Capital Corporation in Little Rock, Arkansas, serving as the executive director for the company's affiliate, the Arkansas Economic Acceleration Foundation. So AEAF is dedicated to education-based initiatives that promote and foster the development of innovation and entrepreneurship within Arkansas. Marie graduated from the University of Arkansas with a bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism and an emphasis in political science. She is also a board member of the Frank and Barbara Broyles Foundation for Alzheimer's Caregivers and serves on the advisory board of the Spirit of Harmony Foundation. So thanks for joining us, Marie.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And next we have Scott Stein. So Scott is the Associate Director of Student Entrepreneurship Programs at the George Washington University. Scott oversees the 8th largest student entrepreneurship competition in the US. He is also the lead human-centered design facilitator and director of digital strategies for the GW Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and a part-time lecturer at the GW Elliott School of International Affairs. He is a social entrepreneur, former executive director, a UX designer with more than a decade of experience and achievement with strategic management, product and service innovation, fund development, marketing in the social enterprise, political, for-profit, and nonprofit sectors. And Scott also has an MPA from New York University, a BA from Pittsburgh College of the Claremont Colleges, and a UX and UI design certificate from the Pratt Institute. Thanks for joining us again, Scott.
Sure.
Lastly, we have Torsten Kolind. So Torsten is a bioinformatics engineer by training. He's the co-founder and CEO of YouNoodle, which is based in San Francisco. YouNoodle, for those of you who don't know, is a technology platform used to source, select, and engage the most promising entrepreneurs and startups in the world. And Torsten himself has judged startup competitions and programs at Stanford University, MIT, and Imperial College, and has written opinion pieces for both Wall Street Journal and Entrepreneur magazine. Torsten is also an advisor to a number of startups and investor in 2 venture funds. He is a frequent speaker on corporate innovation and how governments can spur economic or ecosystem growth through global startup engagement. So with that, I don't know about all of you, but I'm very excited about this combined and diverse experience of our experts from different perspectives. So without further ado, I think we can kick it off with our first question or comment from the audience. So I'm just going to quickly look through the chat box and see if anyone has inputted anything yet. There is nothing yet. So I know, Torsten, you had mentioned that you had some questions to kind of get the audience, into this frame of mind of being able to get the discussion going. So I'll let you kick us off with what you had in mind.
Yeah, thank you, Eliza. And good to see you both, Scott and Marie, and everybody else joining. I think the risk here is that the 3 of us will just end up asking all the questions and talking to one another. And I think that's why we have the Zoom windows, to make sure everybody else gets to join and share their input. So definitely feel free to use it, and we hope to make it very interactive. This is not a big group today, so hopefully there's enough time for people to speak up. But yes, I'm really happy to see a number of people joining. We did run a couple of sessions before, as Eliza mentioned, and I think it's such an interesting time for all of us that I think the least we can do is to make sure we share some challenges and best practices and learn from one another. Obviously, there's a whole other topic about what happens with universities and how they are changing, and how everything from how campus life works to the sort of teaching side and the administrative side. However, I think we should try to focus this hour on the entrepreneurship programs and competitions and what happens in terms of spurring entrepreneurship around the country and around the world. So I think that in itself should be interesting enough. And I think maybe a good place to start is to let Scott and Marie share with us maybe some of the changes that they are making in order to welcome the new school year and do this as best we can going forward. So that's maybe a good place to start. Maybe Scott, you can share some of the changes that you're making on your end to kick off the new year.
Sure. Again, thank you for having me. Great to participate. The friends at Unidol, shout outs to Karen, UC Davis, friend and colleague there, a new friend, Jessa, Northwestern University. And then we got some people I have not met yet, but looking forward to new friends as well. So thank you guys for jumping in, and I'm sure you can actually add a lot to this conversation. So let's keep it light. So I think what's going on with us. So as many of you probably are painfully aware, COVID has wreaked havoc on university systems, higher ed, trickling all the way down. I'll speak to the higher ed piece in particular, but for us, we do a lot of programming in the fall semester, and then we run our competition this spring. And it's about 95% in person. And so this summer we had to adapt to a virtual environment, which I'm sure a lot of you are already doing. And we leverage our fall programs, which consists of boot camps and workshops and human centered design, sort of 1 hour long, sort of just know enough to be dangerous information skill building sessions, and leading into our competition. We call this ladder of engagement. How do you engage students where they are and their interests and their passions, and then bring them through to make them make their ideas and then feel comfortable with entering competition, such as the GW New Venture competition, for example, which is really our flagship program. And so let me tie it into sort of the digital strategies piece. So because we had to flip totally virtually, you know, interacting with YouNoodle has been really very helpful, especially last year when we used YouNoodle for the first 2 rounds, and then we got this sort of situation. This is the mid-March. This is a month before our competition sort of ends, and we were sort of thrown into going virtual, and we used it and leveraged it heavily to continue to do all of our judging virtually, which was a really big deal and something that we couldn't have pulled off the competition without that. So that was a huge resource for us. But I think more broadly, it's a time to think, reflect, innovate, ideate on where are students right now. Some, you know, they are not out on campus. They're not in Foggy Bottom in DC. They are all over the country. How do we engage them? And then how do we then try to convince them in some ways to join a competition, as many of you kind of run? What is the value that they will get out of joining something, even in a virtual context? Because we had lots of learnings, in-person learnings, you know, pitch sessions and other sort of workshops layered into the competition. But those will all have to be virtual. So really trying to describe the value to students of why they would join this competition. So I'll stop there, and that's sort of the big side of what we're thinking about. I'll get into the tactical stuff if you want, but that's sort of the big side of things. I'm really curious also from Marie's standpoint where she is and how that relates to sort of the university setting.
Are you ready for me? That's a good toss-off, handoff.
Amazing.
I know, and I'm holding my phone. And again, we've got a little problem here, but I'm glad this can work. And again, thank you all for having me, and thank you all for what you do. And Scott, it's good to meet you, and I'm looking forward to hearing also from some of the participants, all of you, hopefully. We're a little different animal. We are not a service provider, if you will, in that we are not educators, and we are not in the classroom. This past year, 2020, was our 20th anniversary for our Arkansas Governor's Cup Collegiate Business Plan Competition. And we started this at our company at Arkansas Capitol because we weren't seeing a lot of opportunities to, if you will, educate the pipeline, you know, kids that are coming, you know, through our schools and hopefully coming, you know, going on to college, and spurring innovation, stemming innovation, and trying to get them in a broader way than what Scott was just describing, you know, to see the value of going through something like an entrepreneurship competition. And my husband and I also, if you're married to someone and we own a restaurant that he operates, just being a business owner too, the real world applications of what we are doing in these competitions are, you know, so critical. And it's one of those things that just brings the classroom to life, if you will. So we kicked this off, and one of the things, Scott, you talked about getting them motivated, and especially in these times, we found that money always talks. And our prize pool is $154,000, and we have a grad, undergrad overall division, and then we have an agriculture division and an innovation division. So those cash prize total, plus we get a little money, you know, $1,000 award if they go to make it to the semifinals. For YouNoodle, it's just been a great tool. I can't say enough good things about it. This year, all of our judging for the first round, which is the introduction round, the written round, we have about 35 judges involved, and we get about, this year we had 34 entries from 9 universities around the state. And so we managed all that, judging just fine as we have before in past years, because that deadline was the end of February. And our judges normally convene here in the office over lunch, and they break out into groups and decide their top 2, and then we put them all together. And well, I had 3 teams we couldn't decide, and we had one that really think they should advance. Anyway, we put all that together. But the trend in having people and the caliber of judges that are usually, you know, running a business, or, you know, they're working, we've seen a trend the past few years, like, gosh, I can't make it, I want to call in, or, you know, et cetera. Or we want to have people come from around the state, not just be based in Little Rock. So this virtual, our oral presentations were scheduled a week after all the campuses shut down. So as far as using YouNoodle to get through the judging, and then which worked beautifully, the judges judged online, all the data that we needed. I know there's room to grow, and I'm eager to learn more myself during this call, but it was seamless. I mean, we had no problems with the judges, and then we could get all the scores pulled within very little time and share it with those that could not be there but had judged, with those in their group. So all the downloading and the operation, and customization that YouNoodle gave to us was really, really good. For the orals, that was 2 weeks after our written, and the week later was when our school started closing down. We used YouNoodle for them to resubmit, a broader plan. It's more of a business canvas template at the beginning, and then the broader plan was a limit of 12 pages, and then another 6 for appendices at the limit. So we were able to work very easily with the 10 meg limit for uploads from the universities. They worked with that just fine. And then for our orals was in person, as we went to Zoom at the last minute. And we didn't do a lot. I'm interested to learn more about how we can use YouNoodle as a tool to engage the teams together or something. I know we could do Zoom calls or something. Right now, for the orals we had students that made it home. We had 5 continents represented, and every single student was able to present with their team. So that part went fine. It scared the daylights out of us. And then we did our awards virtually. So as far as where we are in Arkansas, as far as what we can gather from our professors and just folks we're kind of talking to, they do know we're going to do something. And we don't know if it'll be virtually or live. And we're going to make that final decision tomorrow. And I think it's going to be virtual. So, but everybody is, like you all have said, and those of you especially that are at the universities, you were there. It's a wait and see. And my nephew had an early bid to a fraternity up at the university in Fayetteville, and went over to the house. I'm from Fayetteville, and that's where he lives, and went over to the house just to play. Saw a couple of guys playing basketball. There were 4 of them. It was Sunday afternoon. Someone called him in because they weren't wearing masks. So he was like, and anyway, we thought they could do that. Everybody's really touchy right now, and that's certainly understandable. So we're just going to roll. We want them to know, we've told our folks at the universities that we are going to do a competition. It's just how it will look. And I think we're now all, and our sponsors are all pretty much agreeing that we'll have to go that route, even though it's not until the next semester. So, but hearing what we said before as we were getting ready for the call, again, I'm interested in just really muting my microphone. I'm with everybody else, glad to take questions, but learning more how you all are talking about using YouNoodle a little more broadly that we might be able to apply here. I'm very interested in that. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Eliza.
Thank you, Marie.
Or Torsten. You're welcome.
Yeah, no, it's so useful to hear, how people are changing things locally. Before we get too operational, and I know that there's a lot of people here that are knee deep into the planning right now of how they execute programs and evaluation and judging and all this stuff. I have one question that I want to ask, and not just to Scott and Marie, but really to everybody on the call, which is, if you zoom out a little bit and you think about university entrepreneurship in general, the changes that we're seeing, it's really, if you assume you have a lot of startups and entrepreneurs that participate and that have projects, we can execute stuff virtually, and we can talk about how to do that. But I'm actually interested in what you think that the change that people are not together in the same place will impact entrepreneurship in general. Are we going to see interesting enough projects? Are we going to see people getting ideas and moving things forward on their own, even without being able to see one another? I think that's I promise you, this is the zoom out, and we'll zoom in again, but I'm really interested in the overall consequences as you see it around the world.
I think yes, because the COVID virus is breeding innovation. I hate to say breeding, that's not the best word to use, I guess.
Sure.
But it is. I mean, one of the things also I wanted to add and those of you, all of you on the university level, when we decided to not cancel our competition, a lot of schools had to do that, and we did not. We weren't university based, and we could manage that. We got so many, just everyone was so grateful for the opportunity. We can still work. And again, we had all students, not one student on any team had to drop out because they couldn't get their internet or whatever, and they were on 5 continents. So what I've just kind of gathered just from our other company operations and other things, people are getting really creative. And I think continuing with a plan, let's see what happens. So a short answer to your question is yes, I think there will be some innovation, but the caveat also, if we have learned over these years, if there's not faculty support on campus, because we have some universities that just don't participate, they don't buy into it. They're open to all the students, but that faculty one-on-one support, and this year, whether it's Zoom or whatever, and nurturing them and all that is really key to a successful business plan, experience or business competition experience. But yes, I think there will be innovation out there.
I think that's really interesting. Scott?
I mean, you're going to have to ask me again after the fall semester, right? Then I'll have some data points for you. But I think generally what I'm seeing and when I'm talking to students is that they really want interconnectivity, right? They really want in person. This is especially undergrads, grads too, really want that, and they're missing that. As it relates to innovation, what does that mean? It's up to us, I think, to figure out ways to engage them where they are and to bring the connectivity to have students interact with other students. Just as, I know you want to keep it big level, so only, but one of the things we're doing is we're doing like a student sort of round robin and sort of they can interact with each other. So on Zoom, so you can do these private rooms and you can have 10 minutes to pitch your idea and then connect with other students and to see if there's something that that sparks, right? So it's up to us to figure out how to do this with them and to spark that innovative concept. I do also feel, and I'm borrowing and stealing ideas from other university partners, but it's sort of in the summer, and then I think maybe in the winter, depending on if you're semester or trimester or what have you, is use the opportunity. They're at home. They're at their parents' house, most likely, right? For undergrads. That's not where they want to be. But what happens is they probably are starting to really think of ideas. Like they have to sit with it. So how do we keep that momentum going? So I've heard of summer camps, innovation, sort of entrepreneurship summer camps. I'm contemplating like a winter camp. So over the 3 weeks, hey, like, let's talk about your idea where you are and then sort of develop it further and we would never do something in the winter, the 3 weeks for winter break. We would never, because they're having fun with friends, they're going back, there's holidays. But now we're thinking, hey, there's an opportunity here to engage them because really they're sitting at home, right? And they want to develop their ideas further. I am cautiously optimistic that we're going to maintain the level of participation in our competition. We have 425 individuals, over 200 teams. I mean, and this has increased in the last couple of years. And so we're hoping that it translates into engaging students where they are. I'm hopeful, but there's definitely going to be some loss of not being able to have those random interactions that occur. We also, many of you may also run we have the Innovation Entrepreneurship Lab. So it's a physical location at a co-working space on campus. And that's where these random interactions can occur, which can spur innovation, have these random talks. That isn't unable to happen, right? You can't do that. It has to be planned out, right? They have to join Zoom. I think that's a detriment. I think that doesn't help with entrepreneurship. Some of the best, the whole theory is back of a napkin, right? Which means you were at a bar or a restaurant and you're just jotting it down. I mean, I think maybe that's happened once or twice, but it's sort of the lore, if you will. Those types of things aren't going to happen, right? And it's going to be them just sort of sitting with their idea and helping. So we're developing and furthering our mentoring opportunities. So how do students engage with experts and entrepreneurs to help them develop their ideas? Because it's a lot of solo entrepreneur stuff happening right now, right? And I think that's a trend that's going to happen. So I think there's that. And also stealing from others, credit due, we're establishing what we call the near peer program. So fellows and people that have gone through some of our programs before as an opportunity to interact with people who are first year, second year, it doesn't really matter, who essentially can interact with them and do office hours like we would run mentors. Now, normally we wouldn't do that because they'd probably be around our lab and they can just sort of run into each other. But now we have to manufacture a place where they can interact with near peers and get questions as to what's your experience like working with the office? and sort of drive them to people that are more peer-to-peer related. So we're getting real tactical, so I apologize, Torsten, for that. But so I think, I don't know the answer. Let's do another call, at the end of the year. But optimistic, but it's definitely, you have to innovate within how we communicate with each other. And I think that's where it's up to us to figure out how to do that best and to try new things.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I think it's very true. And as Marie also said, that people are getting creative because of these limitations, because of these changes, right? They're thinking about, entrepreneurs are creative generally, but people are definitely being creative about how to solve this. And I think it's really interesting. And maybe I'm just stuck in my own past here, but when I think about my first participation in an entrepreneurship competition was when I was studying in London. I was at University College London, loved it, by the way. But the reason why I entered was that I had these sort of sessions. They were weekly sessions with a number of people from different colleges, from different parts of the school, from different backgrounds, and the ability to find people that had really cool projects that came out of the lab or were working on stuff that I wasn't familiar with, and connecting around those, and then saying, great, let's put this together in a pitch. Let's go into this competition and this program because I can get feedback, I can get access to investors. And I think I learned a lot from that. And I hope that still happens, but I could see that we could actually here in the coming year see a consequence to people just not feeling as motivated to break those barriers also culturally between the colleges and between the different majors, right? So I guess that's where I'm coming from in that question. Any other people on the call have opinions about this?
Hi, it's Karen.
Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, I do believe that people really want to, there's so much going on in the world, and people want to do something. They want to take action, and it is, like Scott said, our responsibility to try to, help connect them. Everybody is feeling so disconnected, and so yeah, that's what we're trying at UC Davis. I've been brainstorming with Scott and a lot this summer, and Sarah from UW, which thankfully the call actually earlier, I think in the spring when you guys hadn't asked me anything, is what connected us. And I really do appreciate that because it's created a collaboration where we can help support each other. We're all in this together, and Scott and Sarah have been amazing. Something that we've been really thinking about is, we don't want people to be turned off if they don't feel like they're an entrepreneur. I mean, a lot of people are innovators and they don't really know it. They see, they see a problem, it bugs them, and they're like, oh, it should be done this way, or this app should be better, or and so the first thing that we're trying to do is actually help people see themselves as innovators, and that our competition is really an educational journey, and learning about your strengths, learning about how you can contribute your strengths to a team, and build communication skills, and everything that you can. And you don't just have to be like, okay, I want to have a startup. Yes, there are those people too. So I think that helps us do outreach in a different way, because the skills that you build can help you in the business world. They can help you get a job. A lot of people who have participated in our competition have said that they've used the Big Bang in their interviews, and the person really wants to know more and more about their experience that they had. And they, students don't always have a great resume, and having projects like the Big Bang that they've participated in to show how they've utilized their strengths is really a positive thing. So we're trying to reach like a broader audience, and yeah, connecting is the big thing. I don't know if you guys have taken StrengthsFinder, but my number one strength is connectedness. And so I always see the world through that lens, and now more than ever. We've decided, normally we have this is our 21st year, and last year was a big year with our 20th anniversary, and our theme was Dream Big. And this year our theme is going to be like change agents for a better world. You know, everybody wanting to make a difference. And we have 3 rounds of judging. Last year we had 113 teams. We have a workshop series with 11 workshops that help you through the competition. And we have mentoring sessions. We have a mentor network, an online mentor network, which we'll definitely be utilizing more. Each round gets narrowed down to the top 16, and that's where we came in March, where that we use YouNoodle for like the last 5 years. It's been great, and highly recommend it. It's very user friendly. And so our first 2 rounds are always virtual. So the timing was pretty helpful, because then we normally will go in person and all the teams come to UC Davis, but we ended up doing it on Zoom. And it was tiring. It was a long 2 days of judging, which normally is 1 day of judging. And the judges were pretty exhausted by the end and Zoom fatigue. So, but it turned out great, and we did an amazing. If you wanted to look up our awards show, we posted it. We did it through Zoom and with Scott's help from George Washington University, because he's so amazing and his team was so amazing, and they supported us through this process of the technical components of really broadcasting live on Facebook Live. So it was a crazy time, and we did it, and thanks to your support. So connections is one thing that we've decided to do this year, which they're going to be like 30-minute brown bag lunches. And we have had the near peer program for the last few years, and we think you know, it's better to hear a lot from your peers than to hear the presenters at workshops who, you know, the old folks kind of thing. So we're having near peers come to connections, and those will be on Tuesdays during the lunch hour, but they'll be 30 minutes. There'll be an opportunity to connect, to hear from peers, to help build confidence in people, and some team formation in there, icebreakers and fun things just to get people, you know, connected. I think that's the main thing in the world right now. So we'll be doing those. Normally we have a 2-hour workshop, but we're going to have a 1-hour workshop instead. We're lucky that we have the last couple of years we've filmed all of our workshops, so they're on demand in a library. So we're going to assign, you know, ahead of time that they watched last year's workshop, and then the presenter will come this year, but with a more of a brief overview. And really it will be a workshop, you know, where they're actually moving forward with their idea, and we'll have breakout rooms and a lot of small group hands-on activities to because, you know, it's going to get boring. They're going to be on Zoom so much, and just I think interaction is like the best thing. So those are a couple of different ways that we've changed our program, and I hope some of those ideas are helpful for you. I would like, I know we're all in the financial, you know, straps here. So any ideas, and like team formation is a big thing too, since everybody is, and I like Marie's idea of maybe if there's a way that YouNoodle can help with team formation. You know, we need some kind of platform. I've done, you know, some research about it, but yeah, getting the people to connect and a platform for that. That's, I know it's hard because it's just another platform and there's so many platforms, but yeah, that I would like to hear some ideas about that as well.
Yeah, so would I. But I can comment a little bit on it. I think it's interesting that, you know, several of you have now talked about this need to be a little bit more purposeful in making these connections, that you can't, when you don't have physical events, you can't rely on these things happening by themselves. You have to actually help participants both in team formation, but also in how they move forward in different ways. And I think that's a really interesting, that's an obvious area for everybody to share tips and platforms and ideas of how to do that. Particularly, with YouNoodle, one thing we have been talking about is whether we could integrate Zoom and YouNoodle a little better, so that, for instance, when you run an evaluation process, we could kind of automatically set up the necessary order of Zoom pitches or something like that fits the process on YouNoodle. We haven't figured it out entirely yet, but we're interested, and we're kind of experimenting with how to do that. So input there is really very welcome. And in general about team formation, I think what I sometimes struggle with is that when you do some of those more informal processes like team formation or ideation, it's hard to get everybody engaged in a platform that they aren't used to. If you open some new fancy platform that has the features you need, and then you invite everybody and say, hey, just go here and go through this process and talk to one another and form teams, I often see very limited uptake of those tools. That people are just like, unless it happens in social media platforms they're normally used to, or even campus related platforms they're used to, participation suffers. So it's not, I think, as much about having the exact right features for it. It's more of a matter of where are the participants and students today, and where can I somehow use those tools to make them interact in this informal way, even if those tools don't have the right features. And I think that's my sort of general piece of advice, is that it's not solved, in my opinion, through features. It's solved through where are the participants today and how can I somehow make them interact. It's hard, I know, and I would love to hear ideas and input and experiences from around the table here. But that's just kind of my own 2 cents here.
Wonderful, thanks for that, folks. Speaking of, where are the participants? Question, Kim Sesko, who's with the Public Engagement Associates in DC, and her question is, what is the best way to reach universities to promote a pitch competition? So I don't know, Kim, if you want to provide more detail around that, but I know that you are working with Gabe Artiega on a new pitch competition, and if you wanted to add any specifics around that. Otherwise, I open up to Marie or Scott or Torsten to kick us off on how to reach universities to promote a pitch competition.
I have a couple of thoughts. First of all, are there alumni in your mentor network, or that are working with you, that might be able to help with that? The note I just put in the chat room about personal visits are always best, but you want to, and I know some of you all are probably doing this, we target all the schools, whether or not they have an entrepreneurship program. We don't necessarily go the business program, and I think someone's already touched on that, to try and target someone in the outreach, their community or marketing department, that I would just as an overall on the campus that we are doing this. And we want to target, if you have an agriculture, college or business or the science, technology, engineering, and just making sure that it's open to anybody. And I know that we've talked a lot about, some people are just innovators, but they don't know how to carry it forward into a working, possibly viable idea. So I would suggest with the outreach to the university marketing folks first, and then just you're planning to, can you help me promote this? Is there a newsletter? There's a campus newsletter I get every day from Fayetteville and all. So that's kind of a broad way to approach it, but then you might look and see. I have found that professors are they've got their, they're focused, and you all know this because you do this. And I think we talked about, here's one more thing. I know we talked about platforms, but then also know, here's some pitch competition. But maybe, I don't know if there's student organizations on campus that might be interested also, but I would just start with the outreach at the university, just the first inquiry.
Yeah, any other thoughts on that? I think it's very related to another question I see here. Sorry, Eliza, for jumping in. But the question about how to break through the noise when you have so many people trying to email everybody about everything, because that's the channel you now have. I think what I've found in the past is that the easiest way to get people up front to legitimately care about something like an entrepreneurship program is to connect with the stories, connect with the people around them and the stories around people that have either been successful or failed or somehow have something to tell. And I think your program or competition alumni are some of the best ways to open that up. Instead of going and say, hey, great, I have this opportunity, you have to apply by this date and you can get this prize, go out with a story of, here is an amazing founder, a team of founders that created this thing here on our campus, and they did this amazing thing for the community or for whatever it is, and use that as a way to say, are you interested in something like this? Then moving into that. I think that lends itself well to a virtual format and to social media also in general. It's very shareable, it's very can be very visual. So that's my opinion on that, but I'm happy to hear other input on how to break through the noise.
I'll jump in there if that's all right. Just another thing we started doing, it's pretty extensive for 20 years, but we've gone back and we have a list of all the semifinalist team members since 2001, and just taken time just when we can with other things that we're doing here to look them up on LinkedIn and send them a message. We have the premium account, and just say we're creating this database, and would you we'll start the page, and we haven't fed it here lately with everything else going on, but we need your email because we need judges, and perhaps we have a lot of alumni working for the Walmart companies, and all the vendors, Pepsi, Sam's, all in Bentonville. We have a lot of kids that are working, for those companies that are alums. So that's been really successful, just to build a email database and look them up through LinkedIn. It's extensive. There's over 1,000 people. So we're about, I think, 700 or 800. I don't remember. We got to get back on it, but that's worked well too. You might want to look at that.
As far as the marketing is concerned, just quickly, there's multi-pronged, right? It's multi-layered. So our newsletter has about 10,000. So that is our main vehicle too. So at the beginning of the semester, we say, sign up for a newsletter. If you can do one thing, sign up for a newsletter. That way we can at least get you into the communication plan and move them forward. We also, faculty is great. Ours is not for credit, right? So so some of you have for credit. That's an amazing tool. We don't have that. So we have to work with our faculty. We created last year it's called the council, but it's really, it's all the faculty that have engaged with us at some level before, from all across the GW, all across the 10 schools. And there was no convening for them who are interested in innovation, entrepreneurship, change making, all those types of things, whether that be in sort of liberal arts, it's hard sciences, engineering, business, foreign affairs, you name it. And they knew us, but they didn't know each other. And they felt that there wasn't a sense of community. Universities may be set up differently, but we convened them. And it was about 35. And people that I thought would know each other didn't, right? They knew me, but I was like, oh, I'm glad you guys are talking because this is great. So that was a way to sort of at least codify the community of entrepreneurs from a faculty level, not just doing it, not in the labs, but teaching or have some affinity towards doing innovation. We leveraged that by doing in-class presentations, and we would go there and pitch for 10 minutes on just our programs. For the first time ever, we created a promo video for our office and our programs, not just a new venture competition, but that was part of it. It was really all of our programs. In a digital, what we're going to do is send it out to everyone in that council and say, send it as part of because now it's totally virtual, right? There's no in-person. So thinking about the medium at which we're doing that. So I thought that was, we just rolled that out recently. And then we'll kind of come into the lessons and just answer questions. And always have this call to action when you're talking about, where we want them to do, what do we want them to do? And we give them a communication, what do we want them to do? And just making sure that's part of our communication plan from the beginning. And we think about it from the summer all the way through New Venture. What are the touch points needed? I know Karen and others have stepping stone competitions to get them in and ways at which to grab them. I know there's like a poster contest. There's all these different things you can do to sort of build them through the ladder before just sort of saying, hey, now do this competition. It's scary for students. They feel that they're going to lose. Everything else, you have to build their confidence as well as their idea. And so I think so we do that. I think your website it's more important now than ever to have a really quality website that describes the value of joining the competition. I think, Marie was exactly right when she said the carrot is the money. right? But it's also the skill building and learning, which they'll get along the way. Show them other people that have gone through this and why they think it's important. Show them pictures of people that look like them. I'm not joking when, when I inherited this, a very good competition, we had about 135 teams, and now we're at a plateau of 200. And we've got more women, we've got more diversity in our competition, which is a huge thing. And it's show them people that look like them in your marketing materials and the way you talk about it to engage more people in this competition. We want more, not less. We want more ideas, and we want more types of, everyone should be participating in this as far as we see. So I'll get off my little soapbox and sort of that type of thing. But I also think, Torsten, to your point on features, you're exactly right. Where are they now? And then how do you make someone's life easier? What is the problem or the opportunity to essentially say, this will make your life better? Just for an example, I'm sure everyone's in this camp as well, is so we use YouNoodle for our third and fourth round judges, our semifinals and finals, which normally are in person. And we essentially did a situation where they would not have two computers, but essentially log into YouNoodle, and that will have all the information you need, and then the Zoom would there, and then go back to YouNoodle and write everything. So they went back and forth between the two because it was the most comfortable thing for Zoom, right? And then using it for scoring, which is by far the most comfortable way to do it. And we've trained them essentially on how to use it. So that was a really critical thing that we did. I don't know if having Zoom as a feature, I think that may be something to explore. But again, it's a path of least resistance with these digital platforms. Anyway, I'll stop there.
I think that's thanks for sharing. That's a really good point. No, I just want to add to the part about when you talked about diversity and showing people that look like them, and I think that's a really important piece of how the startup world has developed over the past 10 years, that it's now become much more accessible, even if you are not, an experienced founder or an engineer or whatever. You can actually build businesses today with some of the amazing tools you have available from anywhere around the world in a way that I think is really cool. And I definitely see it reflected in the uptake of different entrepreneurship programs and competitions, that people come from different walks of life and are now becoming entrepreneurs in a way that 5-10 years ago would just have not been practically possible, given the things they're doing. And I think that's a really cool thing. So thanks for bringing that up, Scott. I think that's an important piece of also how these new tools and the remote distributed nature of things are allowing us to access people we otherwise wouldn't in the past. I'm reminded of a program we ran with the World Bank a few years back. It was called Womena, and it was about women entrepreneurs in the Middle East and North Africa, and that was entirely remote. I think I brought it up in a previous of these events. But the thing about being remote meant that we got engagement from a lot of people who couldn't leave their houses. You have families, or you have social stigma or whatever about doing stuff that society doesn't mean that you should do. So the fact that people could be in their homes participating in this program and getting mentored and moving their projects forward was a huge driver of engagement in a segment where that we just hadn't seen that coming. So the remote nature of the program was really an advantage for us in a way that I think we hadn't at the time seen. I think at the time we thought, wow, we'll see if we can do it remotely, but obviously we're better in person, and it turned out to give us a lot of advantages, which I was really happy about. Anyway, we have only about 5 minutes left or so, so I want to be sure if there's any questions either to us, the YouNoodle team, or to any of the rest of the group here. Definitely happy to jump into any of those.
Yeah, we actually had one last question that was in the chat box that wasn't addressed. But yes, cognizant that we have 5 minutes left, so maybe we can address this question and have some final comments from everyone. So this one is from Tadu, and his comment is, we ran a launch event that kickstarts our annual competition, where we have students that come from the previous year's accelerator pitching for an enterprise fund. We also get our students or graduate entrepreneurs showcasing their enterprises at this launch, which is always run face-to-face. What are some of the platforms you have been using or plan to use to run pitching or other similar events that will have an all-around great engagement for the pitch as well as exhibitors, if both are being run at the same time? equal or like same audience. So kind of any quick notes on that platform related topic from anyone on the call?
So I have one, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
One thing that I saw recently, I haven't tested it out. So, so there's a Firefox Mozilla, if I'm holding is like it's sort of, it's a software, but it's, there was a virtual room. Actually, it was like a museum. And I saw, I think through our engineering department, you can put videos on the wall and display really interesting, you can display, I guess, via PDF. I'm not sure how to do it. You're nodding your head, Torsten, so maybe you know more about this. So I saw that it's sort of VR, and it also has this level of you can do it. I thought the quality control as far as how you move around the room was a little bit weird. It's kind of old school. It's kind of use your, forward, left, right kind of thing. But I thought it was a really unique way to sort of debut and show different sort of what would be a poster or demo space. Anyway, I don't know if anyone's used that, but I thought that was the most interesting. I haven't used it yet, so I'm unsure. The other thing I'm using right now, and is Mural. Murals are a really cool tool, especially for those human-centered designers and design thinkers and design sprint people. Really cool. You can do post-its, and it's very interactive for your programs leading up to the competition. I think there may be something in Mural that could help you sort of, they can throw pictures up and things like that may be helpful to do sort of a demo day. I haven't used it for that. It's mostly for design sprints, but just want to throw it out there as a tool.
Hi, Scott. Sorry. How do you spell Nero, please?
I'll put it in the chat for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was just going to add, I know we're running out of time, but to do different presenters and videos and all that, we ended up having to hire a video company. We needed a switcher to go between different windows and running a video or a PowerPoint from that presenter or sponsor. So anyway, I'm looking for more. It worked really well, but it didn't cost a whole lot of money, but we did have to, that it right follows that, that you had to plug everything through a switcher, and just one person was operating from camera to camera, video to video. We couldn't do that just with Zoom alone, but maybe there's a way. This is interesting. I'm gonna look that up, Scott. Thank you for sharing that.
I wanted to mention during our final judging, something that just happened organically is, poll everywhere. So, we have all of our judges and they're all in their homes and they all just watch the pitch. And instead of we had a lot of discussion and then somebody just pulled up poll everywhere and wrote, who they thought, who do you think should win this different prize? And so I know if YouNoodle decides to use Zoom in a way, then I know Zoom has a poll function. So I think that would help with final judging too.
Wonderful. Well, with that, unless there are any other final questions or comments, I hope everyone has had a chance to copy and paste or save these links somewhere before we leave today's Zoom call. But I will be sending a follow-up. So if you guys do want to keep in touch afterwards and you didn't have a chance to exchange contact information in this forum, I will be happy to facilitate that. It has been a really interesting conversation. I have learned a lot, and I've spoken to a lot of folks like you in a similar position. So it just is a testament that the conversation is ever evolving and will continue to. So coming together and having a forum to discuss and share these insights and challenges is something that I hope us at YouNoodle will continue to be able to provide for you. And if there was anyone on the call that wanted to learn a bit more about YouNoodle as well, like I said, just feel free to reply to my email that I'm going to follow up with. But yes, without further ado, thank you again, everyone, for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you at our next AMA. And thanks again to our guests, Scott and Marie and Torsten, who's our guest / CEO, for joining us today.
Thank you all very much. This is great. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank
folks.
you.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Have a good day, everyone.